Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all doing really well. So, on today's topic, we're doing a Yae Miko solo no damage run, and hopefully there will be something in here for everyone. So, the biggest thing that I think you can take away is the fact that Yae Miko's elemental skill is not a dodging skill. It's a skill that's all about spacing and positioning, and that's sort of how you should see it. The biggest mistake a lot of people try and do is to sort of use it as an ability to, or like as a crutch mechanism to avoid the enemy's attacks. And this is the key thing. With iframing and so on, you are sacrificing stamina in order to avoid damage, mostly by being in the enemy's space. Now, I know there are a couple of exceptions where you avoid long-ranged attacks and so on, but generally iframing is used for when you are up and close and personal with the enemy. And for an enemy like Perpetual Mechanical Array, it is incredibly difficult to iframe, especially those long slashes. And those long slashes have an incredible hitbox. And what Yae Miko does is she allows you to space around this, to position fairly quickly across the battlefield. And this is the thing not a lot of people really touch on. The Spiral Abyss itself is a massive arena. You can very freely move around it, and that's the thing that Yae Miko allows us to do. She allows us to not just use our stamina, but to also conserve it in a very clever way, such that we can continuously be on the move. And the thing about the spacing that we're trying to do now is that it allows us to look at all the enemies. We've got 4 enemies that can hit us whilst doing the solo no damage run, and by being able to space around the map, we are very aware of all of their abilities, of all the objects they're placing on the ground, and all of these sorts of things, and it's pretty powerful. The only thing that I would change with Yae Miko is the ability for her turrets to lock onto a specific target, but I think that's a general quality of life thing that we would want for a lot of other heroes as well, where the auto targeting does seem to be a bit wonky, especially when casting your elemental burst. Now, the thing that I did here with Primo Geovishap is, and I did this in a couple of takes, what I want to sort of show you with Primo Geovishap is exactly how this is not about avoiding his attacks, but about spacing around him correctly. So just by being able to sort of get just outside of his aggro range, we avoided his first attack in that last sequence for free. We didn't even need to move. And obviously here we're just using our elemental burst to iframe. That's a pretty classic technique. But look at what Yae Miko does. He's going to attack us and we just space out of it. That's the thing. He's now taking control of that space, and I'm just very happily moving along, and I haven't expended any stamina. I can iframe him if I want to, I can dash in, I can dash out, but generally speaking, if you space properly, you don't need to iframe. And if there is a situation in which you don't have your E ability, or you've got your last one and the enemy is going to hit you, well, then you can just iframe at the end of it, no problem. This is another very classic example of people running away from the Primo Geovishaps like Energy Blast, and then they run out of stamina and then they run back all the way. With Yae Miko, you can very quickly position, and yes, the kicker, her turrets are constantly doing damage. I think that's something a lot of people don't forget. Like, whilst I'm busy spacing and doing all these sorts of things, note I'm not really attacking with Yae herself. All I'm essentially doing is I'm letting the turrets do all of the work. This hero is all about, of his character, is all about spacing and this awareness of the battlefield and being able to just automatically do it all for you. Now, of course, barring some quirks in the auto-targeting system, this is like such a refreshing place now, because other characters you have to sacrifice your field of view if you want to sort of attack them. Like, for instance, like bow users. Other characters you have to get up and close and personal with the enemy, and you perhaps want to use your charge attacks and all these sorts of things, and all these things drain stamina. It makes the life difficult. And with Yae, we are just literally moving around, spacing around, and our stamina bar is not even like, we're not even using half of our stamina bar, so we can definitely afford to be more aggressive. But of course, the entire point of these examples is to sort of show you how we're navigating the battlefield, how I'm constantly aware of what the enemies are doing, and how I'm very cognizant of what their cooldowns are as well. And this is another thing people don't speak about. enemy cooldowns, because the enemies themselves have a set of moves, a set of priorities depending on what range you are from them, and they'll unleash certain cooldowns. And being able to sort of take a bit of a, or to space properly and have like a bit of more of a macro view of the enemies is so important, because you can see here one of the big problems is we can't see half of the enemies. So being able to quickly space out and see what they're busy doing allows us to very comfortably do this solo no damage run. And even here, even if the enemies are now in a position where I can't physically attack them, my totems are doing everything and I can glide across the field so easily, and I've got more than enough stamina to manage. So yeah guys, that is the Yae Miko solo no damage run. Was it difficult? Not really. Of course I just had to make a slight key change binding because I wanted to use the D button on the, what do you call it, WASD keys. But other than that, it's fairly easy if you understand positioning and how to do it. And of course right here at the end is the Yae Miko build.